to a quick little introduction from Jenny Rojanastatian and Dr. Sue Kane. So let me see if I can share my screen. Yeah. Oh.
I'll try it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can you all see the screen up? Excellent. Well, welcome. My name is Jenny Rojanastatian. I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director for NCW Tech Alliance. We're in a rebranding right now from the name GWADA. So we're in a little bit of a transition. Our full team is here today. We have myself, Carrie Corning, who's organized today's event, as well as Shanae, Farah, and Anna Lee. So if we can be of support to you or your business, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're really passionate about supporting entrepreneurship, technology, and STEM education across 6 counties of North Central Washington. I do want to, we just did a welcome. Sue and I are going to share a few remarks, and then we're going to go to the good stuff. We're going to hear an incredible presentation from Anne. So we're so grateful for her time today. Before we get there, though, just a little bit of housekeeping. I wanted to remind you that we have some upcoming events. So we have a members only event diving into data next week, April 27th. We have a monthly Tech Hub event that's on May 13th. And then we have our Flywheel Investment Conference, and that's on May 20th. I'm going to go ahead and stop share here and just go on screen with you. I'll be sure to put that deck into the chat so that you can reference those links. So just some quick context. I also co-direct the Apple STEM Network with Dr. Sue Kane, my colleague, who's going to introduce herself in a minute. But we recently were introduced to Franz and learned a little bit about what was happening with the new Manufacturing Alliance in Wisconsin. And we were just blown away by the ecosystem that they have built to support not only youth and students, but their manufacturers. And as a nonprofit, we're always looking for ways that we can further impact and support our community. So we invited Anne here today to share about her organization, what she's learned. And then in follow-up, we want to survey all of you and find out what are some of the models that we learned about today that we can apply to either existing programs, because there's a lot of rich existing programs in our community. How can we amplify those? How we can bring new partners together? And also how we can look at this outside of manufacturing. We have a really rich public sector here, a tech sector, healthcare. So we think there's a lot of opportunities to pull some of this into other industries. So thank you for spending a few minutes with us over your lunch hour to listen, learn. And with that, I'm going to have Dr. Sue Kane, my colleague, say a few words.
Yeah, I just want to welcome everybody. I know we use the list for our career connected learning leaders across North Central Washington to bring in some of the people whose opinions we really highly value. And so we want to, first of all, thank you for taking time today to take a look at this. It's something that as we have opportunity to learn from what's happening in other states and other regions across Washington, we want to bring this back and say, does it fit? Do you like it? What don't you like about it? It might not make sense. And we want to hear those parts too, but you might find something that you really like that we could work on together in the next couple of years. And so we're really looking forward to that feedback. And I want to, again, thank you for taking time and then really tell you that perspective that you're bringing to this work is so important as we go forward. And so I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say and think about too.
And due to time, we didn't do group introductions. So we do want to say sorry that we're not going around the table today. Feel free to exchange contact information in the chat, but we really wanted to dedicate the time to Anne's presentation and then group Q&A and make sure we get out of here by 1. So again, our apologies that we're just diving right in. With that, I'll let Carrie introduce Anne.
All right, thank you. So Franz started this, the new Manufacturing Alliance over 15 years ago. She started with 12 companies. It's grown to over 300 members. the Alliance has been recognized both nationally and internationally, has received multiple awards. So I think with that, I actually am going to pass the torch and say, Anne, welcome. Please share with us all your wisdom.
It shouldn't be very long. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be sharing our story with you. I'm excited about your journey that you're taking because we have seen so many amazing things by having industry work with nonprofits, as well as education, chambers of commerce, economic development, other industry leaders all coming together for the focus on workforce. So for the introduction, we did start in 2006, so it's been fun seeing the journey. And our vision statement really says what we're all about. Our vision is that every Northeast Wisconsin manufacturer will find the talent it needs. So New Manufacturing Alliance is actually Northeast Wisconsin, but lucky for us, it says the abbreviation is new. So I'm glad it was an OLD because that wouldn't have been very good, would it? And so I just want to share our story. Now, we've been doing this for 15 years. So the thing I always say, don't get overwhelmed. Don't say, oh my gosh, we could never do anything like that. I know you already have lots of great stuff. And this is just giving you food for thought on expanding some of the work product and maybe some new things. And quite frankly, I really appreciate Carrie letting me learn from you guys about your digital skills training, which is fabulous. And we want to launch that with our members very soon. So a little background. In 2000, we were, right before we started in 2006, we were really in the perfect storm. We saw a lot of companies growing, but they were seeing a lot of their workforce shrinking, not finding enough talent for all the jobs. And really, there were three main things. Retirements, that aging workforce. Every day, US, 10,000 people turn 65. Yikes. As well as just the image of manufacturing was a really huge issue. We just didn't have people who thought manufacturing was a great position to be in. Plus, we knew that with manufacturing being high tech, those skills were needed to be higher than they ever were before. We were no longer looking for that graduating student that just graduated and was that D student. We want the A students. So I met with a company owner who kind of looked like this when I met him. He was like, I'm as mad as hell and I can't take it anymore. And that picture's from the movie Network. So what he was frustrated about was he had a lot of great jobs, but nobody wanted them. And he's like, Anne, is there any organization trying to change the image of manufacturing? Now, I was recently hired by the Workforce Development Board in our area under a grant through the technical college. And so I brought some people together and there really wasn't anything. So a few things when we were looking at developing an industry sector partnership, it's a little bit different than just an ad hoc working committee. It's really looking strategically, not tactically. I mean, of course, you have to have tactics behind the work product, but we need to look at the whole ecosystem and look at all the different things that we need to address to really solve that workforce skills shortage. Our organization is very relational. I have over, let's see, 800 people on my email distribution list. All these people are partners, our task forces. We have over 200 active task force members. We have a very engaged relational organization. Again, this is not a short-term initiative. It's not, doing something for a couple months and okay, now we're done, see ya. Really, it's a long-term commitment. And we're really looking at systemic change. And when I share with you some of the results we've had, we have truly seen a systemic change in how people view manufacturing careers. And another thing is a lot of times when we work with companies one-on-one, we're just hearing the voice of one. We're bringing industry together in a critical mass. For example, our organization covers 18 counties of Northeast Wisconsin. We have over 190 manufacturers that are active participants that employ over half of the manufacturing workforce in our region. In Wisconsin, 16% of all the jobs are in manufacturing, whereas the country, 9 to 10%. And in our area, those 18 counties, 23% of all our jobs are in manufacturing. So that's why it's important that we bring industry together to hear what their needs are to address their workforce issues. And, you know, it really has made a difference in our area. For example, we looked at the tech colleges in our area and looked at 2005 before we started. And there were 180 people enrolled in machining. In 2016, for example, there were 535, looking 10 years out. In welding, 193 people enrolled in 2005, 10 years later, 913. It really works. The key is we had to have an industry champion. You know, I always say only play a manufacturer on TV. I'm not a real one. So it's really important to have industry share their voices and having one or two champions to really advocate, bring the people together. And what you're looking for in that industry champion, you're looking for a strategic leader, which is the CEO or president of a company. That passionate, willing to roll up their sleeves, talk to their peers, provide direction and goals, and say that, you know what, I'm all in. I'm going to help with this organization. And as you talk to industry, it's like, well, why should I even do this? Well, one, they need to have their voices heard. And this is a tool to have their voices heard. It's a way to develop their pipeline, which is critical to their overall success of being able to stay in business, quite frankly. These industry leaders need to learn that, you know what, it's no time for complaining. It's time to get in and talk and develop the direction of the workforce development in your area. And quite frankly, a lot of business has been done between the members because they get to know each other. And quite frankly, you can do more by working together than just yourselves. So I won't be able to hear you because you're on mute, but what's the next line to this slide? If you build it, well, some of you may have thought of the movie, They'll Come, but no, someone has to mow the grass because business leaders, you have a day job and you can't be doing a lot of the day-to-day activities. And that's where an executive director or a coordinator comes in to really take what's learned at those monthly task force meetings and actually implement. So you really need somebody who's going to mow the grass. And a big important thing too is everybody gets to play in the sandbox. So I have a lot of small and medium companies that have equal billing to the big companies like a Georgia Pacific. So each manufacturer, it really doesn't matter the size. They all feel like they have an equal voice at the table. Plus, we also bring in the different colleges. Now, sometimes the colleges were the worst players because they're very competitive, trying to get students. But once they realize by working together, it works for everybody. So we have, again, people from workforce development boards to higher ed, to K-12, to economic development, chambers of commerce, but the 60 to 70% of the people that attend our meetings are manufacturers. So we do things around task forces, not committees, because I've been on too many committees that sit around a table and talk about the problem, but never get to the solution phase. So these are the task forces that we have. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the work product that has been done with the organization from those task forces. So one of the first things we did 13 years ago, we wanted to change the image of manufacturing. And, you know, I used to go out and say, hey, you should be a welder. Well, it's such a great job. Why aren't I a welder? So why not have real people that do these careers talk about their career and why they love working for the companies they work for? So we developed a program called the AllStars. In fact, I spoke in Iowa, and now they have an all-star program too, where companies nominate their employees between the ages of 18 and 36. We spotlight them in a careers magazine. We print 25,000 copies that go out to schools, but we also have an online version that has videos of each one of those winners, sharing a 3-minute overview of what they do and why they love working for their company. Now we have over 130 career videos of local people sharing their stories. And that really started changing that image of manufacturing for us. So that's something that's very easily replicated. And that's one thing I hope you'll find is a lot of the things that I'm sharing, you can lift up off the page and do yourself. We also knew it was critically important to become a partner with education. We each year have an Excellence in Manufacturing K-12 Partnership Awards dinner, where we recognize schools and manufacturers that are doing some great things. So hopefully the audience is learning from those great practices, and they in turn may bring it back to their workplace or their school. This will be our 10th year of that event. Our last awards dinner, we had 425 people attend. And what I do is I make sure educators and industry are sitting at the tables for the dinner. So there's an opportunity for conversation and developing relationship. One of the other things we did was we were concerned that if we focused only on tech ed and kids who are already interested in manufacturing, we were missing out on a huge group. So we know that every kid has to take math, and math is pretty important in manufacturing. So what we did was we had a half-day summit with math teachers. We actually paid the sub cost so they could come. And we said, you know what? You had us at hello. We are here to hear what you need. And that's one thing I think sometimes industry, we're like, hey, this is what we need. But what are we doing to say, what is it that you need, educators? So what we did was from that conversation, one of the math teachers said, you know, I am so sick and tired of kids raising their hand saying, when am I ever going to use this in the real world? And is there anything you can do to show relevancy in what I'm teaching? So about 7 years ago, we started creating Get Real Math videos. What it is, it's not showing, kids, teaching them like how to add and subtract fractions and things like that. The teacher does that. And then once she teaches or he teaches that skill, the student then, their capstone is watching a real life video of a math problem at a manufacturing company. This one is, what does cheese have to do with math? That's Sargento Foods. We have one that's, what does toilet paper have to do with math? From Georgia Pacific, where kids see a large parent roll come off a machine. We give them the dimensions, and the problem is, how many rolls of toilet paper does that machine make every day? And believe it or not, it's 1.2 million every day come out of one machine right here in Wisconsin. And so in the pandemic, we needed a lot more, I know. But anyway, and so this is a way for students, and we have now over 50 videos that cover over 100 Common Core math skills from 4th grade to 12th grade. And we have a math teacher write the lesson plan, and then it's totally free for schools. And now we have schools all over the country using these videos. Giving kids that exposure to manufacturing careers is critical. They have to take math, and this is one of our ways of doing those constant touches throughout their education instead of just a one and done plan tour, which is great. But let's continue to make contact with these kids and engage them about manufacturing careers. Oops. You know, the pandemic has been hard in terms of K-12, but what we've done, because we know we can't get kids in the businesses, we've done virtual plant tours. So we have companies that actually filmed a virtual plant tour, and that's been really successful. We've been doing a lot of workshops virtually. And then we also know one of the things that kids get excited about is hands-on. So we actually are doing some virtual builds of boat build, a car build, where kids at their home or Girl Scouts or Boys and Girls Clubs actually build a car, and we talk to them via Zoom on how it relates to real world. Since forming the Alliance, because we now have partnerships with the colleges, these are all of the examples of new degree programs. In fact, we never even had a four-year engineering degree program at the two four-year colleges, and we were able to help launch that. We also know we need to connect with those college students, and internships are one wonderful way to do that. So one of our areas that we reside in is Green Bay, Wisconsin, Green Bay Packers. So we actually have a big college internship event called Internship Draft Day at Lambeau Field, where students get to come in, interview for internships, co-ops, registered apprenticeship, and we make it fun. We do have a ref blow the 2-minute warning whistle when there's only 2 minutes left for the interview. We give them points for how well they interview. And then at the end of the night, believe it or not, the president of the Green Bay Packers announces the #1 draft picks. And we give away college scholarships, gift certificates, and we truly have 200 plus college students from all over the state and Upper Michigan come and compete. One other cool thing about our area is because of the partnerships we have with the colleges, with industry, our area has more registered apprenticeship than anywhere else, because we're able to advocate and explain to companies the value proposition of registered apprenticeship. And Milwaukee, which is, million plus people, they don't compete with how many registered apprentices we have. We're really wanting to put some dollars behind what we say to schools and kids that, hey, manufacturing is a great job. So we've invested in college scholarships. And back in 2009, we started with $4,000 for the 4 tech colleges, $1,000 each, which we felt wasn't that much, but it was a start. Well, now we give we give $50,000 in college scholarships each year. And since the start of that, we've given over $300,000 in college scholarships. One of the ways that we do that is we have a big golf outing, golf scramble called the President's Cup. And what's unique about it is companies get the opportunity to golf with manufacturing leaders. Most golf outings, you golf with 3 people you know. Here you get to golf with 2 presidents of companies. And that event, we net over $40,000. In addition, our members are looking for people. So how can we find them people now? A lot of those strategies, like especially K-12, are long-term solutions, right? So we post on our website job opportunities, and then we also work with different organizations and groups on getting resumes from people in their people that they've worked with. So every month I send out professional talent resumes, production talent, and then we also work with our local vet services on veterans that are looking for jobs and connecting them to employers. So every month our members are getting resumes of talent. We also have a very extensive social media campaign. We tweet 3 to 5 times a day. We post on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. We also wanted to be the voice of manufacturers. So now we're at 11 or 12 years where we commission a study where we have our companies take a survey to understand, are you hiring? If you are, what kind of positions are you hiring, especially those that are hard to find? And so this is our latest one. We had 128 companies take the survey. And interesting enough, in 2009, the first year of the study, we had 29% said they couldn't find the talent they needed. This past year, 71%. So talent continues to be a huge issue. We are seeing more engagement from schools, more tech ed programs, more college students, but we just don't have enough to meet all the capacity. In 2018, we actually had Microsoft contact us and say, hey, we really like what you're doing. If we gave you some money, what would you do with it? And I'm like, I've heard a lot about Industry 4.0, but when I talk to companies, they don't really know much about that. And so we did a study, 104 companies took the study, and I was right in terms of what I found out, that only 7% had a plan. So we have a task force called Industry 4.0 that is doing a lot of educating members about different technologies, from cobots to AI to big data to IoT. And that's been a really successful task force. One of the things that I think the reason why we should look at Industry 4.0 is that's a talent strategy. We got to do things smarter, and by some automation, kind of take up some of those spots of that low skill, low wage production worker, and be able to fill more of those opportunities. From our study, we found that data analytics skills was the most important skill set for almost every department of a company, from supply chain to HR to plant floor to that industrial maintenance mechanic with prescriptive maintenance. So we actually are working with LinkedIn Learning on a data analytics training. We've had over 150 people go through that training in just about 6 months. It's wildly successful. And what we do to add to the LinkedIn training is we have a weekly call with the students in the cohort where we provide a content expert to expand on that LinkedIn learning. And then we have the students do a capstone project after the training on something that they've learned. And that has been exceptionally successful. We also have a huge conference each year called Manufacturing First, where in 2019, we had over 1,200 attendees. It's a B2B event, but we also bring in over 500 high school students to walk through the event for part of the day. We have content experts. And again, it's another way of us showing to the media that manufacturing is alive and well Wisconsin. Because of the success of the Alliance, we also started another association 10 years ago called the North Coast Marine Manufacturing Alliance, which is the 6-ship yacht boat builders. And so we have some programming directed specifically to them. And I also started a Healthcare Alliance, a Financial Services Alliance, but just the Manufacturing Alliance was getting too big, so I got rid of those two. But if you'd like any more information about the financial services as well as the healthcare, I'd be happy to share that later. We also heard from our companies their concern about the aging workforce. And then we studied their employees and said, hey, what would keep you from retiring? And we found some really great takeaways, but we also found out that we had a lot of people frustrated because they didn't know where to go when they retired. So we actually, this year, for the first time, launched a retirement readiness seminar for employees 56 years of age and older. And it had somebody from Social Security, Medicare, estate planning, as well as the emotional impact of retirement. And we heard so many, I've already gotten some emails from last night's event from people saying, thank you. There was nowhere we could go, that one-stop shopping of all the things we have questions about. Plus, we invited HR leaders, and they also were really appreciative because they were getting those questions too. So how do you pay for this? So this is how we paid for it. We worked with our local workforce investment board on paying for the staffing support of this position. We did get some grants early on. And then we have a structure where manufacturers pay dues. We didn't want the due structure to be so high that they couldn't participate in like their chamber dues and things like that. So our membership pays between $750 to $2,500, depending on how many employees they have. And then those partners that we have provide a lot of financial support. So the technical college in Green Bay and Appleton both give me an office, and the tech college in Green Bay also gives me a full-time administrative assistant. So that's how we've paid for it. And last year, which was a tough year, really was our best year ever. We are, in 15 years, are in a strong position financially. I think because we've shown value and that companies have seen real results from working with us. So the 4 keys to success is that industry must lead. Again, you know your business a lot better than I. And so it's critical that we bring industry together to talk about those common problems and to develop solutions. But you also need to have somebody facilitate, and somebody who it's not just part of their job. They have a zillion things to do in their regular job, plus you're going to just add something to it. That's really tough. You got to really try to keep focused, try not to do too much. Now, I gave you tons of things that we do, but again, it took us 15 years to do those tons of things. So my recommendation is to focus on 1 or 2 things for the year, do those well, and then continue to grow from there. And sorry, can't see the last one. And then measure your results and celebrate. We're very metrics driven, especially manufacturers are all about the metrics. But you got to also celebrate. And we really have seen some amazing things. The gentleman I shared with you that I talked to many years ago, who was so frustrated that he couldn't find the workforce he needed. He's like, I'm tired of manufacturers being considered the pillagers and polluters of society. We should be considered the pillars of society. And you know what? Manufacturing here, we're the best in the world. And one day we're going to plant a flag and say that. And about 7 years ago, we did plant that flag. That in Northeast Wisconsin, we're a world-class manufacturing center. And having our whole community celebrate about being a strong manufacturing focus. So one of my favorite proverbs says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that truly is the case. By coming together, you really can make a huge, huge difference. And that's the presentation. Any questions?
Wow.
And yeah, I'm speechless, and most of the people on this call know that that's not my problem usually. This is exactly why we wanted to bring you in and introduce you to our region and share really, the success and the journey that you've been on for the past 15 years. So thank you for that. So if it's okay, I actually would like to just open it up to questions, but I want to start to, I want to make sure that we do get access, if possible, to your presentation. And then, Anne, how big is your team?
I'm sorry. So I have 1 full-time administrative assistant and 1 part-time marketing coordinator.
Whoa.
So you don't need a huge, huge staff. And we do pay for somebody to do our social media. They're not a staff member. And quite frankly, the part-time marketing person, which works 3 days a week, she just started 2 years ago. So there's a lot that can be done.
Well, again, I'll just say that's amazing. That is amazing. So let me open that up. Sorry, that was a little bit selfish to start with the questions, but let me open that up to anybody else. Please ask away.
I see one question is, how do you find your industry champion and how do they participate in your organization? So I was fortunate because I just kind of fell into it. But how I recommend to other people, some of those business leaders that are advocates of the K-12 system or college system. And it's having that conversation. And one of our business champions is the CEO of a company called Lindquist Machine Corporation. And he has offered, in fact, he has actually traveled with me we've spoke in in Iowa, in Texas, and he's welcome to have like somebody talk to him in your area. That's one of those business champions. He is such a great professor of the value of this. So sometimes colleague to colleague. So I'd like to offer that. Mark Kaiser would be happy to talk to a few of your manufacturing leaders directly about the value and the reason behind taking that extra effort. It's really worth it. We do have a board of directors of 20 manufacturers. It's really important that that board is made up of people who are VP to president level, because those individuals are more strategic thinkers. Now, our task forces are made up of a lot of HR leaders, operations, marketing managers, but really that board of directors should really be that CEO, president level to really form the vision. And they meet monthly. So every Wednesday, at first Wednesday of every month at 2:00, we meet. And most of my board members have been there from the beginning. And that's a long time. So if there wasn't value, they wouldn't be staying on. In fact, I have a waiting list of people, leaders who want to be on our board because they see the value. So that's how I would do it. I think you probably know a few manufacturers, if that's where you go or whatever sector, healthcare or whatever. And that's one other thing too, trying to be all things to all people is really tough. So having something that you have people from multiple industry sectors, healthcare, manufacturing, finance, but that may be hard. I know in our area, they try to do an IT alliance that was all industry sectors, and they just had a hard time kind of connecting because they had different speech, right? Manufacturers talk different than healthcare and things like that. So there was it was clunky. So just something to consider. C1, I love the scholarship idea because it provides an opportunity for marketing and messaging. Yeah, the scholarship has been wonderful. And you know what? By us investing so greatly in the colleges, they're more interested in talking with us and more engaged. So on my task forces, I have associate deans, and then once or twice a year, we meet with the college presidents in our area. In fact, next week is our meeting with the 4 technical colleges, 2 4-year colleges, where we have our board of directors meet with them and talk about those issues. You know, honestly, we don't partner with our local library district, and that would be a partner that we never considered. So I appreciate that comment. The Get Real Math videos range from 4th grade to high school level. And so on our website, a math teacher can say, I'm looking for a 5th grade fraction skill, and it'll bring up the videos that have that. Because of the success of the Get Real Math videos, we're now launching Get Real Science this summer. We'll be debuting them. And one of the fun things that we do that I didn't share with you is we have a big movie premiere that is an opportunity for us to feature the newest videos. So we have this beautiful historic theater. We invite math teachers and tech ed teachers and industry. We have a red carpet where the teachers walk down. We take their picture. We give away $500 cash awards to math departments and tech ed departments. We get a couple hundred people there. And this is after school, after a long day. And that has been a really fun way to really kind of love on those educators and be able to have an event that brings people together. And again, it's all free. And that's what we're trying to do. And it's important not to give something to somebody that's just more work for them. That's why we're not asking them to do more than what they normally do in the classroom. They teach a skill. And what we're doing is helping them show that relevancy in what they're teaching. And then they show the video as a capstone. And that's huge.
And one question, just to kind of dial back, you mentioned that if in your suggestion is to really focus on one or two things and really do them well and then move on. So what would be your suggestion as a starting point? What would be the first or second or first and second things you would focus on if you could go back and redo your run at this?
Our AllStars magazine was huge. And what we did also was we then had an awards dinner for those individuals, and we featured them at an event that was already, it was our big economic development event where there was a few hundred people, not just all manufacturers, where we then had an opportunity to have them stand up on stage, the AllStars, and showcase, and all those people that would say, oh, I would be embarrassed if my son and daughter went into manufacturing. They saw right on the stage these people being recognized, and then they got the AllStar magazine. And so that one is very easily replicated. Like I said, I presented in Iowa, and they've been doing this for several years now. And it's a fun way for companies to showcase their talent. With the videos, a lot of the companies on their job hiring page on their website have a link to the video of their all-star. Because again, who best to talk about their career, their great jobs and why they should work there are their own people, right? So that would be one I would highly recommend. And then I think you already are doing this with your STEM task force, but some type of engagement with K-12. I see a question on how are your task forces organized and how frequently do they meet? We meet every month. We have the same time. So the talent task force meets the second Thursday of the month at 8:30. We have the task forces. I should also say we meet quarterly as a full membership. And like at our last one was in March. We had, it was virtual, and we had 275 people registered for the event. We have great engagement. And so when we have a month where there's a quarterly membership meeting, we don't have the task force meeting in that same month. Because I'm only asking our companies for their employee 1 to 2 hours a month. And I'm really careful because I know people have a day job. And then our task forces are organized by, one, we have an industry lead the task force. So I'm not leading the task force in terms of the meeting, as well as our board meeting for that matter. Industry leads the agenda and the discussion. However, the work product that comes out of that, they're not responsible for. I then go back and do the work where they lead the meeting and help set the direction. And then for those task forces, I know that we have lots of different people from education to industry to even we have some associate members that are for-profit companies that are not manufacturers. But we do require the line share to have to be manufacturers. We have this associate member level, which are like banks and accounting firms, which we put at a premium of $2,500 because we didn't want a lot of them and just a few industry folk. In fact, the first 2 years, we didn't allow anyone other than manufacturers to join. And then we had a critical mass. Then it was okay bringing a few people. And in our bylaws, 60% of the membership has to be manufacturers. And that way you keep that balance. You know, it's funny, I had presented in Italy and they had their first plant tour and they were like, wow, manufacturers are really excited about their companies. I'm like, yeah, you know, so that's why it's so important to have that leadership and manufacturers sharing their story.
And let me ask this question. Was there a strategic reason that there's 18 counties that are involved?
Great question. In our state, they developed these economic development regions, and ours in our area was 18 counties. Now, if I had to do it all over again, 18 is a little much, to be honest with you, because it's a large, I mean, going from Marinette at the top of our county to Fond du Lac, it's probably 2.5 hours. And so I probably would have maybe done 10 counties. And what I've done to help mitigate some of that issue, because most of our task force meetings pre-pandemic were in person. We rotated at different companies. We have a special task force just for Marinette County because it's at the top of our county area. And we're starting Fond du Lac area, which is the southern part. So a special task force for them to mitigate some of that travel issue. But I wouldn't recommend 18 counties. But you know where your workforce grid of people are coming, because not everyone living in your one town is coming from that town, right? So looking at, and I forget what you call that, but you know, what is that pattern of talent that is coming to these companies?
I'm wondering about how involved was the New Manufacturing Alliance in the development of some of the youth apprenticeships. We have, it's a very similar model to the youth apprenticeship model in Wisconsin. In Washington State, there were already youth apprenticeships formally defined, and they were 2,000 hours. And so to make it a little bit shorter and attainable, we have a new kind of program called Career Launch in Washington State, which is essentially like the Wisconsin model of youth apprenticeship. So, and we're working collectively. A lot of the stakeholders on the call today are leaned in, trying to look at how we might be able to expand those opportunities for students. Did the New Manufacturing Alliance take an active role in the development of your youth apprenticeships?
Yes, but more so making connections. So each year we do a survey of the membership to identify which companies are interested in doing youth apprenticeship or learning more about it, as well as plan tours, career exploration, even externships. And then we give that information to the YA coordinators in our area. Because a lot of times, you know, we get so many emails. Sometimes that YA coordinator sends something out and nobody responds, but they know me. So they'll answer that, and then I can put them in touch with those companies. And so because I'm pretty small staff, trying to organize all those youth apprenticeship would be a little difficult. But this way, I have the access to the companies to make those connections. And then this past February, we did have a youth apprenticeship workshop helping companies learn how to start or even enhance their youth apprenticeship program. And then I also met with parents and students about the value of youth apprenticeship. Did that answer your question? Great, thank you.
So we've got just under 10 minutes. Are there any more questions anyone would like to ask?
I got one more. Is there one program over any of the others more successful or more bang for your buck?
Good question. You know, like I said, the AllStars program, it's an investment because we, you know, are printing and videotaping, but that really to have our own people talk about their careers was worth the investment, right? There are, you know, you can Google career videos all the time, but they're not in your local area. They're not your companies being featured. And that's why we thought there was a lot of value in that. The Get Real Math videos, just getting people to be excited about working together and having all these educators come is really huge. It's all about relationship building, right? And so, you know, and then lastly, internship draft day was a huge win for us. And quite frankly, the first time we did it was an epic failure. It was one of the most, I wanted to cry. It was going to cost $10,000 because Lambo's not cheap, if you can imagine. And I had like 20 students registered. Well, that's not a really good value proposition, ROI. So we canceled it 2 days before the event. I just was very sad and embarrassing. So we brought it back to the task force and regrouped and came up with the idea of it being at Lambeau. Why don't we play off a draft and then internship draft day? And the next time we offered it, we had 100 students. And we actually received a national award from the university system for that event. See a question, have you tracked the impact that you have had on your dropout rate of kids? We have been very fortunate in Wisconsin, less Milwaukee County, our dropout rate is below 95%, 5% or lower. We do, and we have worked in partnership with an organization, and this is a wonderful organization called GPS, where we take kids that are credit deficient, we take them out of the school. We then, the GPS program has a teacher that works with the kids. They do 3 hours of instruction at a manufacturing company. And then the rest of the time, they actually work. And so the kids are, and what's also really cool is the kids aren't getting a GED. They're getting their high school diploma from their school, because we know a GED doesn't have the same value as a high school diploma, right? And so that is one way that we have tried to mitigate some of kids that would not have made it with going through the traditional high school way of, 6 hours of school. It's for juniors and seniors, I think also sophomores. And if you'd like more information about that, I can send that to you. But it's a really great program. I see the child labor laws. That's the value of youth apprenticeship, is by being in the state's youth apprenticeship program, you can mitigate some of those child labor laws. And so that is one thing that we can do that helps with that.
This is Richard Hanover. Hi. I work at the local port district here in Moses Lake, and that last part was, that question was mine. We have a very high Hispanic population in Grant Adams County, and Hispanics, I'm half Hispanic myself, so Hispanics have a high dropout rate, and that's something that I think is kind of hit every single person that's probably on this call, is that we want to have that kind of impact on those kids and give them those options. So that's something that I'm really interested in and would love to see more material on.
Yeah, I will send Carrie the contact information for GPS. It started out in Milwaukee, and then we helped them expand up to our region. And a company actually hosts the students, all the students at their facilities, usually about 20, up to 20 kids. And then when the kids go to work, then they go to different companies in that area. And they're able, it's wonderful. The kids get that one-on-one because there's one educator to them. And it's been very successful. In fact, my nephew's in the program, so I know firsthand. And they've been doing this for, I think, about 10 years.
All right, everybody. So just, to be respectful of everybody's schedule, we're down to about 4 minutes. So again, Anne, I want to thank you so much for sharing so much knowledge in such a short amount of time. I think it's really pretty phenomenal what you do and what you've done there. I do want to remind everybody that it was crucial for us to receive your feedback on all of this. In the chat, there's a link to a JotForm survey. I will also email that out to you as well after this event. But just to wrap up with the last 3 minutes, is there anything that anyone else would like to share out? Doing good.
I'll just jump in and say thank you again. Thank you, Anne, for your time. And we learned a ton here. There's a lot of the programs at the Tech Alliance that are similar that I think we can amplify and pull from your experience. But we have a lot of organizations on the call that they might be able to apply some of these to their organization as well. And we encourage that. So we're seeking your feedback on how we can work together as a community to implement perhaps some of these programs. So thank you, Anna, for being an incredible resource to us. And we look forward to seeing all of our locals at one of our upcoming events. So thanks again for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. And Anne too, if we could get your presentation as well afterwards, I'll share that out also.
Sure.
All right.
Great. Yeah, just don't wait too long. I mean, a lot of times, life is so busy. And if there is interest, take that next step. Find that a couple manufacturing leaders, and if that's what you decide, but don't wait too long, because things add up. And so this is such a great chapter now that we're moving out of the pandemic to start moving forward.
Great point. Thank you. All right, everybody, have a terrific afternoon and have a terrific evening, and I hope that snow melts.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
All right, bye, everybody. Thank you. Go ahead and end.